Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I've got myself on. Well, everyone, good morning. Welcome to DYOR Live. Yes, it's an exciting day today because crypto is a mess. Crypto is a mess like you've never seen. We're going to have a good show for you today. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here on the DYOR Media Network, on the Big D, as I'm calling it. The Big D. It's the new name for us. That's right. Oh, my lights are flashing. Why are my lights flashing? Wouldn't be my show without a technical glitch at the beginning, would it? No. Not at all. Anyway, we've got a good show for you today. As you know from the thumbnail here that usually I have up here, but today I have CNBC because in a few minutes we're going to hear from the Grim Reaper himself, Gary Gensler. But it's a mess here, and it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. The SEC versus CFTC versus Congress. Yeah. Yep. So let's get this show going, ladies and gentlemen. Crypto analyst Pedro Garcia. I love it. It warms me up. The little ditties from my shows. This one and the great theme from Rugged, Ruined, and Wrecked. I worked so hard making those. No, I didn't. I used one of those automatic services that did it. That's right. Anyway, let's see. The show we got for you today is pretty good. We've got Gary Gensler here at 9:10 coming on. Obviously not into my show, on these guys behind me here. We also have a good discussion today about the CFTC's hearing yesterday in Washington, D.C. The House Agriculture Committee met. They're the ones that fund the CFTC because commodities started with managing agriculture. Now they've morphed into derivatives, swaps, and futures markets of all sorts. But it's in the House Agriculture Committee. So you got a lot of guys from Iowa, Kansas, and I shouldn't say guys. I should say congressmen from the center of the country, the farmers running the futures markets. What most people don't know is that all the futures markets started in agriculture. And the majority of what's traded is agriculture-based. Pork bellies, ladies and gentlemen. Pork bellies, orange juice. We all remember Trading Places, right? The movie Trading Places. Interestingly enough, that gif that everyone turns and yells, "Sell!" with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. That's where I used to work. I used to work right there on that floor when that was filmed. It was filmed in the summer of 1985, and they filmed it about a week before I started working there. Well, let's see. Let's see if Pedro's come on here. Pedro is in the background here. Let's give him a test. Pedro, you're unmuted. You probably can't hear me yet. Let's get Pedro up and running here. There's always one more thing I have to open and get running here. There's always one more. Actually, I was doing the feedback. All right, let's get Pedro his sound here. Audio source. Don't want that. He wants output D. Yeah, it's overly complicated. There. Now Pedro should just hear my mic. Pedro, I've unmuted you. If you're trying to talk, you are muted. All right, let's check out the sound here. Testing. Pedro, can you hear me? Pedro, can you hear me? Oh, Pedro dropped off. All right, we'll get back to him in a little bit. Anyway, we're coming back to Gary Gensler's coming up here. Let's see where they are in this.
It was meant for this thing.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, and it's worrying me. That's great. I'm talking about my health on there.
All right, don't worry.
But
you're gonna be all right.
But
you're indestructible.
See, the fact is that you can't breathe the air. I think it's playing a big role. Now that
we got Kramer on still talking. I guess they're waiting for Gary Gensler to come on. There comes Pedro back. Pedro, you've got your wrong screen shared. You got the tab. You got to share the tab of your screen, not of the video conference. Hey, there we go. There we go. Now you got it. That's it. We're gonna listen to Brian Armstrong here.
Regulate this industry, and we're seeing conflicting statements from this. Asking them for clarity about a number of points in the law, which they never responded to. And then this Wells notice and a complaint arrives. And so this isn't good for America. It's not good for the industry, obviously. And we now need to go get clarity from the courts.
It's not good for America, Jim.
I love someone who comes on air and gives a completely ill-advised series of statements.
Why were those ill-advised?
Because Gensler came
All right, they're back to talking about Kramer. Let's mute him. Pedro, are you there? You're muted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Pedro? Let's get the screen share. Oh, Pedro's got the infinite loop now. You're sharing the wrong screen there, Pedro. You're on mute, so I can't hear you. Yep, I think I hear you now.
Yeah, so I keep forgetting that I actually have to unmute myself. So I'm sitting there trying to think it's my own, but it's the actual system itself. So I was like, okay, I get it. All right. I'm a little slow there sometimes when it comes to this stuff here. But quicker than the average bear, so it's all good.
If you notice, you're sharing the wrong screen, so you got the infinite loop going on there.
So what I'm going to do, and we should be good.
Right? Now we got it. Now we got you.
Yes, sir. So right now the big story is the SEC going after B&B. What is this about, my dude?
My word, Pedro. It's nuts. It's nuts, I say. It's nuts. Yes. It's nuts. It's nuts. Oh, here we got Gensler coming on. Let's take a listen. I don't know if you'll be able to hear my CNBC feed.
Exchange also operating a hedge fund, making markets, and as we alleged in Binance, having a sister organization, flooding the platform with transactions called wash trading, and the lack of controls on the platforms. It is really a web of deception and conflicts.
Jim, Armstrong said, or the courts will figure it out. So what do you think happens?
Okay, that's a feed from another day or earlier.
The commission is a very open and shut case.
He said he was coming on at 9:10. He's running late, so they're hosting him. But Pedro, my God, they're ladies and gentlemen, without further introduction, but I will, as shown in our intro, we have Pedro Garcia, the crypto analyst. We like to do a bit called Cinco de Pedro, where he gives us some Bitcoin and market overviews for the upcoming week or upcoming day or whatever. But we don't have a guest on the show today, so Pedro will be our guest today. And kind of go over more things in the market, but we're going to have a lively talk about how and I know this will get Pedro, a little trigger him, and how the government is coming down on the man, and the banks are trying to take it all.
Yes, and here's the thing that all right, you just already set me off. You set the fire to the wake. Boom. So right off the jump, I truly believe this is the government stepping in, pissed off that they never got into crypto, and so what they're trying to do, and I think it's brilliant, is literally push out the small guy. 1, 2, meaning by getting the market to sell off. Okay?
Yep.
In traditional markets, and Cramer is I've showed, how many times have I showed the Cramer interview of him talking with the inside or back talk behind the market, where they talk about really what's going on. It was done back in 2006 for industry leaders, these guys. And so they brought him on, and he just openly talked about how market manipulation is something that everybody does. Now, this is back in 2006, 5, but this is something that's always been done. So on the backside, he was very clear about what it is. You can go on, if you could jump online real quick and you simply just type in Jim Cramer, market manipulation, the streets. Okay, literally that. You'll see a video back in 2006 of him and 2 gentlemen and him talking very clear about the markets. All right. So it's very clear. Now, I put that as a preference with, I think it's so funny that they have him running this. He's their guy. Like he's the guy that they use, because traditional people will sit there and kind of listen to him. And because he's been around for almost 30 years, he's tried and true, air quote, or air quote, tried and true, air unquote. Okay, so with that caveat, I sit there and I go, he is playing the part so well. And now I want to point this out, because for the last year, we've been in this range here between, literally with BNB. They've been putting in shorts, right? They've been putting it in and dropping, putting it in and dropping it. We're coming down into a demand area that I've been talking about, especially right in this area. Again, this is not financial advice. This is purely for educational and social entertainment purposes only. Okay, so make sure that you guys understand that.
Absolutely. We have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly. This is all educational and or entertainment purposes only, because the SEC could be listening or watching. So, I am not a professional. I do not hold any professional licenses. I'm just simply a guy who looks at charts and then kind of goes from there. But it's very interesting to sit there and see what's actually going on in the market and what's actually happening. And I want to point this out at the beginning of the month. What they'll do, okay, if they want to push it up, they'll push it down first, the beginning of the market, and they will create. And you, as much as I used to be on the Chicago board for options or for the market out there, so you understand like the market manipulation that they did with the options. Yep. And they would first have to go ahead.
I certainly did. I saw it at the lower level, at the small trader level, not at the big institutional level.
But it's still the same thing. They create fear or they basically do FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt through news, hence causing people to sell things off. And then from there, they buy up on the cheap. And that's what we're seeing here, which is absolutely beautiful. And it's textbook. It's literally textbook trading here. They came in. And this is the weekly and the monthly. So you can sit there and see the weekly and monthly chart here. Here's our monthly. They barely put in. As you can see, as they were moving up, we've been putting in a lot of supply, or I call them seller wicks, where it's like as we're moving up, they're trying to put in their shorts so that they can push it down. Now, I've talked about this for almost 2 years now. I want to say 2 years. When did the market fall? So BNB hit 600 up here. I said that would have been November of 2001. So we'll say, I think it was maybe right when I got into crypto. But I said the real buyers are sitting at this 50-period moving average. This is institutional money that steps in at these levels. You can see as we are putting in this type of trend line, you can see it's very clear.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really do see it's coming and playing with the 239.7 area down to the 216 to 215 here, and I'll draw this zone here because these are institutional moves. This is what they do. They like to do this. And so for me, when I look at their play, it's brilliant. I mean, honestly, it's brilliant. You know, like if I don't like what they do, but you know what? If you can do it, you know, I just go, man. This, and here's the thing, it doesn't change. The game doesn't change for these guys. That's the thing in all of it, is that it never changes. It's always the same play every time.
And we fall for it every time.
Every time. Like literally Pavlov's bell. It really it never, like, it's like, it'd be cool if it was done. I was like, oh, that's different. But it's not. Like, it's literally not. And they've literally come out and said the man that they are currently using right now to bring fear or whatever, he's the guy that they use. Like, he's literally the guy they use. And it's just like, it cracks me up. It absolutely cracks me up. So that is my rant. All
right, let's see. While we got you on here in the hot mode, I'm going to add some more triggers to you. Yesterday, the SEC indicted, or 2 days ago, they indicted Binance, and yesterday they indicted Coinbase. And when they indicted Binance, the market tanked. As we know, it's since recovered, but it just blew up everything yesterday. Well, let me just phrase that. And BTC has recovered, but everything else kind of hasn't recovered. And one of the issues that I've been complaining about on the air a lot and in Twitter and social media is that the FTX scandal cost the investors $30 billion or $40 billion, whatever it was, in their deposits. Note, not in FTX US, that they were relatively safe. And then yesterday, when the market dropped as a result of Gary Gensler's news, we'll just call it news, more than $100 billion in market cap disappeared from the digital asset / crypto pool. And so in one stroke, Gary Gensler erased more value than all of the scandals we've had this year or in the past couple of years. And we understand that it comes back, and people say, well, Tom, it came back, and that's the market. It goes up and down. And the Fed goes to announce things, and the market tanks too. But the Fed, their actions are known, and that they're known to say things that will make the market go up or down. And Gary Gensler coming out and charging Binance after working with them constructively over the past basically year, according to Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. Let me rephrase that. CZ, the CEO of Binance, it sent the market into jitters and triggered a lot of stops. And people got stopped out like crazy and lost a fortune. And Twitter is full of people complaining, hey, my stops were based on technical analysis, were based on fundamentals, or whatever. They were not based on Gary Gensler coming out and saying, hey, everyone sucks, and we're suing everybody.
Well, okay, I want to make sure we add this, because there is the real technical analysis, and then there is the traded technical analysis.
Right. No, we want to make a clarity in that. But what I'm saying is, I'm going through this long diatribe to get that news out and get it off my chest. But I want to ask you this question. After that tanked so much, why did BTC recover so much? You can look at your chart and show the tank on it, and then it comes right back up to pre-news levels. Why?
All right, so this is good. Let's look at first of all Bitcoin here real quick, so you can
Yep.
sit there and see what's actually happening. So here's Bitcoin. Here's our monthly chart, right? Many of you guys know, if you paid attention to. If you want to shout me out, I won't shout myself out. If you want to shout out my YouTube channel, you can. But
Go ahead, shout it out, Pedro.
All right. So if you want to check me out, I actually have this a few months ago. I used to post every single day, but it's got to the point where it was just like I don't have a lot of people, and it was just like I was talking to myself. But I went through and I talk about this level here, right? The peak of Bitcoin that we saw here, where we hit that 30,000-ish area, and then we had a sell off. Now this chart is the BTC, and the reason why I like it is it pretty much has the most volume here. Is the Bitfinex chart.
Yep.
So that's why I use this one in particular, because it does have the most volume. So that's why I use it. You can see here that we came into our zone, and this is a daily zone that I was looking, and we'll go into it in a second. But we hit this. We had our 200 period moving average coming down into this area, and it was under its, basically I call it like gaze. And so this is institutional money using to trade the market as we move. Now you can see here that we had the huge sell-off, and this is Bitcoin. Look, it hit our area of demand and pretty much tapped our area here of the 8 moving average on that weekly, or excuse me, on that monthly chart, right? And so these are areas of buys, and I haven't touched. You can actually go back months ago where I actually set these up in the video. So if you want to look at that, you can. Now, you can see here as they're playing these, and I think it was last week when I had to sit there, you said, give me what you think the market's going to do. These movements are real simple. They just simply come in and they play off of these levels. That's it. These are emotional levels. People have short-term, long-term emotional levels. And so when the market does play off of these, the institutions know that.
Right.
And so when you've made money and you see it keep going up and then going down and then going up and going down, you just get to the point where you just say, oh, forget it, I'm done. Right. And then you get out, and that's what they do to you. And or they come in and they bring in a ton of horrible stuff like, oh, we're going to shut this down, just like we saw in China, just like we saw the people don't realize the biggest holder of Bitcoin is the US government. They have over 1% of the actual stuff like, oh, we're gonna shut this down, liquidity, just like we saw in China, just like we saw Bitcoin. The people don't realize, and I don't think that their accumulation, and their accumulation is all for free. It's just through seizures of them having.
I know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous they don't give it back to who got it stolen from.
Right. But that's based off of them. But I say that because of this one thing. When you look at this market, the market here is literally setting up for a sell-off. And so they are going through and they're messing with it. I think I personally have said that we would probably come up to like the 20, 30,000 mark and then come back down and test these lower levels of the, I personally, and people don't want to hear this, but I'm going to say it, 10,000 mark area, 10, 15,000 mark area. And in this, and I actually was in a public forum with shout out to the Coin Launch Lounge, where I talked with, and also Moonrock community very openly about these levels.
Right.
And so in the same sense, I do see us continuing to come back down here. We've already pierced these moving averages, and now we're going to continue down. We might have a stagnation at that 20,000 because we have that 50 period moving average, and we do have a big demand area here, a lot of buyers. So I potentially could see a turnaround at that 20,000 mark, but I'm hesitant to sit there and say that because of the hard line view that the SEC and President Biden is coming in at. So I think they really want to drop this market because they don't want it to go up yet.
Right.
They do not want it because I don't look. I mean, if you look at the volume here, they have not been able to push through. And additionally to that, when we look at the geopolitical arena, the governments of the world are now using blockchain and especially Bitcoin to accumulate and actually do transactions. We're seeing a lot of this stuff happening. And so
there's governments that have set up official mining operations.
Australia, right? And then who else?
Yeah.
Or
Bhutan has done it. They're setting up the Kingdom of Brunei. All the little guys that say, hey, we've got some extra cash sitting around that they've acquired legally or illegally. But they're setting up official government mining operations and using the funds in their general budget. I mean,
yeah, there you go. Like literally, there you go. I mean, this is literally a way for the small guys to finally get ahead. And in additionally to that, get out of the gaze and debt crushing a stronghold that either China or the U.S. government has placed upon them. It legitimately is. Like this is the cash cows of what the. So if you look at history, right? If you look at history, one of the biggest things that our founding fathers in America were really against was central banks. Like
right.
They hated central banks. They didn't like central banks. They spoke very clear, saying, "Don't ever allow central banks to get involved in our government." Well, obviously they have. So one of the ways that they make their money is literally through this area right here of bringing huge debts on smaller countries and levying income from them. It's the old-fashioned Assyrian nation requiring tribute. I'm not joking. Like this is legitly by other nations to come in and bring cash into them. Now, not to say that this is like massive conspiracy theory, any of that, but it's still the same thing.
No.
It's still the same thing that we see in ancient Babylon, in ancient Assyria, and like this is just, it's been around since the beginning of time. So it's one of those things that's his way that they do it. So on the back end, as they keep pushing down this market, they then, one, are able to get in at a lower price, i.e. central banks, large governments, and in addition to that, they also push out the smaller guy because he's not making any money, right? And so he's upset. He's got to go back to work. Those who basically get, anyways. So you triggered some things in me that I'm just like, brah.
All right, well, let's broad back into it. What is Bitcoin doing the rest of this week? It's a news-heavy week, and it's making the charts quite volatile. What is Bitcoin going to be doing tomorrow through the week here for us crypto people to watch?
So one of the things I want to bring up is that you can see here that there's really not really any buyer or seller wicks here. Now, you remember back in the day when you did ask me about, okay, what is the week going to do, right? And I said, it's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to get, and then we'll break up, then we'll break down, and most likely push back up because of where we are sitting in between the moving averages. Remember that? So if you look here, we're in between a moving averages right here of that 20.
Yep.
So we very much could see, because it's so volatile, a rally up back to the 30, and then it come back down to the 25-ish area. There's a potential. You can see we have this big wick here. It's the beginning of the month already. So they could push it back up, push it down to push it back up to drop it back down. Okay. So when I look at it from that perspective, then when we look at the weekly chart, you can see again that the weekly chart here is in between moving averages. It's in between the weekly 8, which is sitting right here. Okay. And then we have the 220 period moving average. As you can see here, we're in this range here. We're playing, okay? But we pierce these. So these are areas that you want to be paying attention to, because literally it then communicates to you that it wants to most likely go down into the lower levels. If it was holding, it would look something like this. Boom. Where are we at? Right? Like you can see here, when it comes up, it touches this moving average and it sells off. It comes in, as soon as it pierces, you can see that it then starts to go back up. you can see here, we pierced these moving averages. So most likely, they're going to push it back up to push it down. All the lemmings saw that it started coming in, so they had to buy it. And as it pushes up, the institutions come in and take and put in the sells. When there's a lack of buyers, the shorts can't push it down. When there's a lack of sellers, buyers cannot push it up.
Right.
So you know that because from a smaller level, you've been in, as you know, like there are times when options.
Right. People have stuff to move, but there's no one on the other side of it.
So then that's when who comes in? Our good friend, Jim Cramer, who gets people to get in and get out of the market because he's a pretty good talker.
Yeah, and I've been playing the anti-Kramer investment watch.
Yes.
And guys posted one the other day. They grabbed a clip of him in I think it was November of 22, saying how Nvidia is doomed. There's no upside for it as the mining issue wears off, and then the AI issue explodes, and Nvidia stock 2x's in a month.
Oh, he's a genius.
Not 5%, 10% that everyone's happy with in stock markets, but it goes up 200%. Kramer's like,
dude, he made his money. He got people sold off. He was able to buy up.
Yep.
He was able to buy up what he wanted. And you can see, now this is the S&P 500. We're starting to push up for the day. So let me look at the 5-minute here real quick. Here. So let's check out this volume for the first 5 minutes.
All right, give me a minute here to talk social media and stuff. Oh, I've got the wrong screen on my background here. Let me fix that. Let's see, desktop. I wanted to have your chart on that for this screen. Screen share, desktop capture. Every time I start the program, it randomizes where shit is, and it's driving me crazy.
What's actually happening in the market, and it kind of cracks me up because it's textbook market crazy that they do every single time.
It's textbook market crazy.
Market crazy, dude. And it works every time. It literally works every single time. There's never not a time when it doesn't work for these guys. And I'm like, wow, hey, can we seriously, can we not play into their games? Nope. Sorry. We don't. We
all right,
the hook, line, and sinker. Sorry, go ahead.
Let's take a technical analysis break for a second here, and we'll come back to you, Pedro, in a few minutes. I wanted to get through what the CFTC chair, Rostin Behnam, had to say yesterday in front of the House Agriculture Committee, and why my graphic so casually points out that a war is brewing between the regulatory agencies in the U.S., including in the crypto land. And I've got the wrong graphic up. I meant to have the hearing up, but I've got a good summary up from a lady named Dina Rothschild. The CFTC chair, Rostin, called for more funding in order to be able to police the crypto spot markets. Crypto spot markets are currently mostly overseen either by nobody or by the SEC, depending on what they've taken over. Because they manage the spot markets of all of the commodities, the coffee, sugar, cocoa, gold, oil, platinum, palladium, all that type of stuff, and including the swaps and derivative markets that the large banks and large financial institutions do as a result of 2010 Banking Act that fixed the problems with that from the 2008 mortgage crisis. So he wants to be able to regulate that, and the CFTC does business differently than the SEC. The CFTC manages and sets their regulation in the playing field, but doesn't have an enforcement division. What they do is they refer them to the Justice Department or civil court to take care of that stuff. And their budget is only about $350 million a year compared to the SEC's. I don't know what theirs is. It's more than $1 billion. And they return $8 for every $1 in budget. That means their fines every year are over about $2.4 billion, which is amazing that much money is fined and collected each year. But that might be an average. But anyway, they're a good deal for the taxpayers, and they don't get to keep their money. Their money is returned to the U.S. Treasury to use in general funds, whereas the SEC, and you can see where this starts coming into play, the money that they get, they keep. The SEC, whatever they can recover from through fines and other civil actions and things like that, is theirs to use for their budget. And the SEC spends a lot of money. They're a lot more lavish than the CFTC, and they have a lot more people working for them. And so there's a disconnect. And the CFTC doesn't even charge its users to register. They don't recoup any costs. You register with the CFTC, your products, you go through the process, the cost is borne by the government. You go to the SEC, and there's a cost for registration, and they charge its users. And that's because the CFTC doesn't have that legal authority. But Rostin said that the House Republicans, it's different now. The Republicans are in charge of the House, addressed key questions in the draft legislation that would grant his agency oversight of a broad swath of the cryptocurrency sector, except for the big one, how to pay for it. That's what I was just talking about. He said it would cost about $120 million over 3 years to get up to speed on this, and so he would look for that budget. And one of the things that came about in that showed me that there's a behind-the-scenes war here going on. Was that one of the representatives on the committee asked, "Isn't it convenient that the SEC all of a sudden within 2 days, Binance and Coinbase announced their action against them right before this hearing was taking place? Because the hearing, if the Congress passes what they want out of this hearing, would, I'll use the word, usurp the authority of the SEC to do these things and to prosecute these companies, and it would actually create a legal sandbox for these companies to operate on while they sort out the best way to regulate them. So they asked, does the CFTC do things for political reasons? And the obvious answer was that the SEC was doing announcements and doing media announcements for political reasons. And the obvious elephant in the room and the obvious answer was yes, the SEC is doing it. And Chairman Behnam for the CFTC just casually answered, no, we do not do that. and he was very frank about it. And I was listening to him, and he was very good. He gave me the sense that they have a good plan to do things fairly. My graphic showed the House Financial Services Committee Chairman Patrick Henry releasing some information or draft legislation that would help everybody in the market and set a level playing field for everybody and make an avenue for people to get registered and to trade properly. The one thing I didn't see, which I am a little worried about, is that the CFTC says the way things need to operate is everything has to go through an exchange, because you have an issuer of an asset or crypto or a digital asset or of whatever, and you have the user, but you don't want the users interacting directly with the issuers. You need a method of protection in the middle, and that protection includes the exchange, the custodial services, all the other things that go along with it. So in essence, what they're saying, and Pedro, this is where you can come back in, that they don't want DeFi. And so the DeFi seems to be the problem here. And in fact, with users having the ability to work directly with the issuers of an investment contract, it seems to be not going to go forward in the government. There's no way for them to stop it. It's like the drug trade. They can spend as much billions of dollars as they want trying to enforce anti-drug rules. It's never even sort of made a dent in the whole thing. And now that the DeFi genie's out of the bottle, I mean, come on, guys. I mean,
well, you have whole entire governments that are literally using blockchain to establish its way to get around the U.S. sanctions. I mean, it's you literally have the ability now, like when it comes to Brexit, or not Brexit, excuse me, the BRIC nations creating their own currency. Like they're literally able to get around the whole entire fiasco system called SWIFT. They no longer need to go through this because DeFi literally allows them. And so this is really what they're trying to do. It's not even about us. It's really about trying to put a black eye into the new currency that is usurping the US dollar. And on the back end will most likely, because it's more efficient, it's the difference between Kodak, snapshot, and digital. It is that much of a difference with the old system to new system of way of doing money. And the government is holding hard and tight. The U.S. government is holding hard and tight onto the old fashion of doing pictures versus taking digital pictures. And I don't understand why they are. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I gotta say, there's some extreme readings of anytime too many lawyers get involved in something, you have the recipe for disaster, because start getting it. I shouldn't say lawyers, but too many people of any industry, and you start getting groupthink, and people keep doing what ifs until you fall over dead and everything comes to a stop. One of the things that's going on now is that there are certain groups out there, and you see these posts on LinkedIn from people saying that even participating in crypto, knowing that there's a validator earning fees that's likely a Russian entity or a sanctioned entity or someone on the OFAC list, even if you're participating in the Ethernet blockchain, means that you are participating and paying a sanctioned person by allowing them to earn gas fees based on your transactions. And so some entities are running around saying, even if you just buy ETH, you've broken U.S. federal law, which, because of the OFAC list, and that the fact that these validators, most of them are anonymous and they're not KYC'd. This is a behind-the-scenes push to try and get everyone on the blockchain, including validators and every node, completely KYC'd. In order to frighten everybody and say, oh my gosh, one of these validators might be in Russia, and so I can't even participate in blockchain, or I can't even do anything like that. And it's driving me crazy. Basically, the laws that we've placed in the U.S., I'll say a long time ago, under the guise of doing something good, just trying to root out fraud and bad stuff, is now actually, since crypto is worldwide, it is now affecting almost everything an American does worldwide in a negative way, not in a positive way. There's no positives here. The laws the U.S. have passed are generally hurting our industry and hurting the innovation.
Literally, it is literally.
Yep.
Like people, talent we do not. One of the biggest things that have made America great is we've always had amazing talent. And the reason why we won World War II, was because of our talent with Albert Einstein, everybody leaving Germany and other places around the world, in Italy, right, is that they came here and they all got together and they said, let's create this atomic bomb because we know that they actually have the jet fighter.
Right.
Like people don't realize, like we did not have the jet fighter first, and they were decimating our bombers with these things. But the fact is that when we dropped that bomb on Hiroshima, and then everything else started happening, dude, that was a big deal because we had the talent and the brains to develop this. We are pushing talent outside of America and into other places like Europe, Belarus, Russia, China. Like, and even though you're not supposed to work for them, they are. It's like it's like you said, it doesn't, like, we literally don't have, it's like our government is trying to like stop innovation. It's gonna happen. I don't know. I mean, is it am I wrong, or
Nope.
I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're not wrong at all. Oh, there's too much to unpack with the loss of innovation the United States is going through right now. Is on multiple levels, and that's a whole series of shows, from manufacturing to crypto to, we lost a lot of the innovation in semiconductors. We lost a lot of the innovation in robotics as it moves quickly to China, and now with the whole crypto thing, with people around the world talking about, hey, Hong Kong's reopened for business, let's go there, and which is amazing to me, because you're essentially putting your money in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party, which has its own way of doing things, as we know. Oh, it's mind-numbing how quickly, how short-sighted people are. I'll just use at the SEC an example. How they say, well, we have to do this. We have to do it. We have to do it. We have to do it. The SEC does have rules, and they have settled law they have to abide by. But when they trick people, when they, if they enforce things evenly, the market would say, oh, okay, we get it. But when they just pick and choose and jump around here and there, it stifles innovation. And you see companies rushing to other jurisdictions, which the SEC also claims doesn't matter, because they claim that even if $1 from your other jurisdiction ends up in an American citizen, U.S. citizen's pocket, you still have to be fully registered in the U.S., which is ridiculous. Like, Bermuda and the Bahamas could set up a fund to trade amongst each other, and the SEC claims that, well, Americans still can buy it, so you have to register in the U.S. And obviously a lot of companies or people don't do that, but still, it's just ridiculous, and I could complain about it forever. And I could complain about the SEC going on, and then the news recently about them suing Binance and Coinbase. But you'll see on the screen behind me here that even with that going on, remember Coinbase sued the SEC, saying, I did an episode on it called "The Writ of Mandamus," or Mandamus, however you want to. It's when the government isn't doing the job it's supposed to, it's legally required to, and you have no alternative but to sue them, and the courts can tell the government agency, hey, you need to do your job. And that's what Coinbase said. The SEC is not doing their job. They won't answer any question of ours. They said, we have this product and you tell us to register. We don't know how to register, or we don't know which license we need to register with. Or they listed, I think, 55 questions, just simple things like, do we do A or B? Your website is confusing. Do we do this or that? And the SEC would not answer them. They're just saying, you're not registered, you're illegal. And so they actually went and started talking to each other, and had Brian Armstrong on CNBC today talked about how this was a problem. And he famously talked about it a few months ago, saying before they got their Wells notice, and said, hey, we're here. We want to work within the rules. Just tell us what to do and we'll do it. And the SEC said, hey, we're not here to tell you what to do, but you have to register. And they said, okay, well, do we register with our broker-dealer's license? Do we register with this? Do we register with that? And then they didn't get any answers. And so they weren't going anywhere. So they sued, and the courts have said the SEC has to give them time, or it must give an answer. And so the article I have behind me says U.S. court gives the SEC 1 week to respond to Coinbase's rulemaking petition. The SEC was just hadn't been answering even the court, when it previously ruled by this last month, and said, let's see, U.S. courts issued ultimatum to the Securities and Exchange Commission, giving the regulator 7 days to clarify its position on a rulemaking petition from Coinbase. In the order issued by Court of Appeals, ordered the SEC to reveal whether it has decided to deny Coinbase's petition, and if not, how much time it requires, blah, 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 blah. Coinbase originally filed their public petition in July of 2022. So a number of things have happened. Coinbase went public, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? They registered with the SEC to go public. The SEC vetted what they do because the SEC will not let companies engaged in illegal activity go public. They don't care what you do. You could be selling marijuana, but if in your state, if it's legal, they'll and if your ducks in a row, they'll let you go public. But if they're saying that Coinbase is doing things illegally, but they allowed them to go public and vetted their operations, it's a conundrum that I just can't figure out. I can't figure it out, Pedro, and I don't know what the hell's going on.
My question is this, is now that their time limit is coming to an end and they actually have to do something, they ran to Papa Biden and they're saying, this is bad, this is really, really bad, And now what's going to happen is Biden's going to step in and go, well, you know what? And he's going to it's going to elongate this process. So I think the more fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the further the markets are going to drop, right? The more that there is this, I don't know what's going on, the more that people sell off, the more that people, because again, it goes back to the market goes up, the market goes down, my money goes up, my money goes down. I can't handle this anymore. Just get me out. And then they sell off. And then who goes in and buys? Big institutions. Big institutions. Well, I will keep going back to this because all this is part of the game. This is a part of the game. Obviously, I went on a diatribe earlier about the why are we pushing talent away. But the reality is at any period in time, if America, just like China, sat there and gets rid of and starts to become crypto friendly, right? All talent will sprint, not run, sprint back to America. Why? Because it's a lot nicer here than other places.
Right. And if we set a fair playing field for everyone, then it will be a fair playing field for everyone, and everyone will want to bring their company back home. If we give them good tax strategies, they'll for sure bring it back. But if we beat them up and tax them out of business and regulate them out of business, it's just not a good thing. We all know it.
Well, I want to say it like this. I mean, just even at our high tax brackets right now, is half of the tax brackets around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Europe, taxation is huge. They have the same thing in Israel, the same thing in South Africa and other places around the world. They are taxing crypto so huge, even at our top tier notch taxes here in America, still a lot less than the average taxation in Europe and around the world.
True. Very true.
So I see, it's like people are just afraid. So they'd rather be able to make some money, right, than no money and afraid to go to jail. So that's why right now they're staying away. They're, and in doing that, they're literally causing the markets to have its turbulence, which allows big banks and institutions to go in and buy on the cheap and keep investing. Dude, you know what'd be dope though?
Do tell.
So, all right. So we all know that Bank of America, many of the large institutions have the hardcore patents on blockchains.
Right.
Like
huge, tons of them.
Yeah. Like whether they're actually going to be followed, I doubt that because crypto is extremely nimble. You know what I'm saying? It's extremely nimble. And when you kill one, 4 or 5 pop up the next day, right? You can't. And so it's like, as we keep moving forward, because it's the wild, wild west of right now of crypto, it's going to be really interesting to see when it starts to get adopted here in America. I'm really going to be interested to see are they going to get rid of the SWIFT system and then create a new system like a CBDC system, but like a different type, let's say a bank crypto, right? Like a USDC or a JP Morgan crypto. You know what I'm saying? Like, where it's like they now they're the intermediate, but it's still DeFi. But instead of having CZ as the runner, you actually have JP Morgan or Bank of America.
Right.
I don't know. It's just, like, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've been going here getting the next news stories up, and the bank, which you started out by talking about the patents that the banks have, Bank of America and JP Morgan. The other day I spoke about JP Morgan's Onyx system, which is an internal Ethereum fork that they use to transfer assets and tokenized assets around between their various divisions and amongst their top financial partners, clients, and other people that they allow onto the system, fully vetted and make sure everything's fine. It's a gasless system, and so it's free to transfer things in it. And since they started it in late 2020, they've moved $1 trillion worth of tokenized assets around on their own blockchain.
What
tokenized
assets are on it?
Please
elaborate.
Yeah, tokenized, meaning that they have tokenized foreign exchange things. They've tokenized tranches of U.S. dollar securities that they own, and so they have them in their internal exchange, say in a big, $10 billion VAT, and they divide that up into, $1 million increments, and are able to send those to their various divisions to use in their trading floors and all that without having to send the money around. And it's instantly settled, as blockchain is. They don't have to, send their office in Frankfurt, $20 billion to the SWIFT system, do a foreign currency change to euros, and then have them do that. They send them now internal. They settle to cash immediately. All internal. They have an exchange. No, they have a blockchain, they have an exchange, and they have a token. They're in the Onyx token. That's all internal. It's not external. But my example is when the internet was created, it was just a small thing that connected universities and certain military groups to transfer information around easily. Then they said, oh, well, we'll add a few more groups to it. Then we'll add a few more and other government institutions let's let this company, Microsoft, on here, and let's add Apple, and and then all of a sudden it exploded. And what my theory is that the great lobbying power of the banks is behind pushing the U.S. government to be so terrible on them, to push out everybody in the public blockchain area. And then the banks will say, well, the SEC is going to regulate everything. We currently have a product that is trillions of dollars of moving stuff around. The SEC should just say, well, you have to use JP Morgan's blockchain. Yeah. Or, bank number 2, 3, 4, they'll all have their own version of that. And then the banks control everything. And as my sponsor here, Auditchain, Jason Myers, the lead architect for that group, famously says, in the end, the banks are going to get everything. And it's not just because they're evil. It's because they're incentivized to do so. Bank executives get paid based on shareholder price, revenue, profitability, all this type of stuff. And so they have an incentive to grow the company. And once they get large enough to to have tons of money and influence policy at all levels of government, not just at the federal level, they've influenced the state level. Banks influence your local city elections too, because here in Chicago, the banking industry was pushing for bank branches, to be zoned differently so they didn't pay as much property tax. Because they're like, well, bank branches don't generate a lot of income now, so we can't pay a lot of property tax. And they almost won. But everybody was like, whoa, wait a minute. You're just like any other business. So they influence policy at all levels. And even though people say, well, Sam Bankman gave $30 million to Democrats and $40 million to Republicans, that's nothing. Nothing. I mean, that is zero money in federal lobbying. Or I should say, in the United States lobbying. If you use the word billions and give to everyone on the federal level, give to everyone on the state level, and give to, Somebody in all 89,000 municipalities in the U.S. Is looking out for the banking industry, and that costs a lot of money. And that's why they're so effective at this. They have a great lobby. They have a great, their momentum pushes people to go, oh, well, the banks are good because that's what everyone tells them. That's what they're told all the time. And it drives me absolutely crazy that people don't see this. And so we're going to get what we get.
I think you also need to point out the fact that people are just simply lazy. They like having people over them to tell them what is good and bad. I mean, unfortunately, like people, even though we scream we want freedom, people run to slavery and security. Like
they do. They don't want to take a risk.
People don't want to take risks, and people don't like taking not just risk, but like when you look at the idea, like America was literally built on, all right, look, we are out of the idea. I mean, Boston, stop taxing us. Like, look at
right, Stamp Act.
It comes down to just simply that. So when you look at the idea that we're setting up a way for us to not be taxed and a way for us to actually get ahead, it spits in the face of the government as well as spits in the face of big banks, because banks, it's going to sound weird, right? But like you're saying this perfect. They start low. They will find somebody who's charismatic locally, right? And then they will help support them from a business, get them up and running. I.e., let's say Obama. I could be wrong. I don't know. And then they then funnel him up the ranks, right? From a local, let's say a guy who went to, I don't know, was smart, came from the streets, or maybe a family member who kind of is an underdog, somebody who likes bushes or an oil, and then push him up through the system, i.e., then the banks get them to a level when their kids get old enough, that politician kind of goes away. Who goes into the banking industry? Their kids. I mean, Pedro, that's not true. There are no kids in banking from any of our politicians.
Right. No, never, no.
Wait, no? Wait. Well, Biden's kid. Well, okay, that's just Biden.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is heresy.
Well, what about the Clintons? No. Wait, did Chelsea?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm wrong. No, I'm wrong. I'm silly me. Yeah. Okay, so you catch it.
Right.
You can bring Bush. They're all there. They're all there. You're gonna see Obama's girls going to banking. It's a beautiful thing. Once you get to that level, they're set.
It's a license to make money. That's what it is. It's a license. Actually, it's a license to print money.
Yeah.
But as we know, there's a lot of pushback now. There's just a lot of pushback, and I have to say that all of this, regardless of where it goes with the SEC and the CFTC and Congress and all that, is a good thing because it's brought the attention of more millions of people to it than otherwise would have paid attention to it, and we can't discredit that. As a lot of people say, all news is good news, even though this is bad news with the SEC doing its thing. Ultimately, it's going to be good news because various things will happen. The industry will wake up and say, we need to lobby like the banks do. We need to elect people that will support our positions. And we need to get the word out better that we're just not all scammers. Yesterday I listened to the House Agriculture Committee, and there are still people, congressmen, that get up there and parrot what Elizabeth Warren says. Senator Elizabeth Warren says that crypto is just a scam and everyone's getting scammed and scam. And as I know, everyone knows, I run a show about scams. I get that. But it's still less. The total annual scam in crypto is less than what Visa deals on a daily basis. The whole thing in crypto is less than the scams or attempted scams in the Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover credit card land every day. And I don't see these senators and House of Representatives people up there going, oh my God, my constituency just got, or debit card was used in blah, blah, blah. And the reason is because there's protections against it. So all of this news ultimately will bring probably a little bit more protections against us, which is good. But watching the people that are against the rules when you watch these hearings and stuff, it's just it drives you crazy when they parrot things that are wrong. And what drives you even more crazy is when they say, if you're like, well, if they got this topic wrong, what else are they getting wrong? You know, what else are they getting wrong? And that makes you sad. I mean, that you're like, oh, if they're getting everything wrong, then we are officially doomed. Well, Pedro, I don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time left here today, but I got you back on the screen here. And give us what we need to look for the rest of the day today and tomorrow in Bitcoin land.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or in you know, in the market in general, whatever you want to use as your measure.
Absolutely. So am I sharing my screen right now or no?
You just changed it to me instead of the graphs.
There we go. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. So
There you go.
that's what I was using to follow. All right, so let's look at this here. Okay, again, I'll just make it real quick and simple. Let's just look at this. The market here is right now, it's moving up on the day. And it will most likely want to see some type of sell-off. It's called the dead cat bounce. We see a sell-off, boom, we see a rebound, and we see another sell-off. So for me, I do see the market continue down. We have a lot of moving averages above us on the higher time frames. And so I do see us in the next probably week or two coming down to that 25,000 mark area. Again, this is all for educational, social, and social educational, and it's not financial advice. So again, this is real important to pay attention to the fact that it is selling off, and they're bringing a bunch of FUD, which is good for them because they're able to buy in on the cheap. They're the ones who are buying, and it's kind of brilliant with what they're doing. I think it's brilliant.
While you've been talking, I've been trolling Gary Gensler's Twitter account and putting the comments people are leaving on the screen, and there's been some great ones. So the one I saw yesterday and couldn't find was to Gary Gensler, "You have no soul." And then today there's all kinds of them, and I'm not putting the not safe for work ones up, but one person writes, "Thank you, Chairman, for boosting investment and innovation in the European crypto industry," which, of course, as we've seen from, that doesn't mean European Union. That means the European crypto industry, because it encompasses Switzerland and Crypto Valley, which is pumping right now with new businesses and innovation. So I just wanted to let you know that I was doing that while you were talking. Pedro, that's all we got today. I've got another show at 11:30 Eastern Time, 10:30 Central Time, and 4:30 London, UK time, because I'm hosting On the Brink episode 20 live from London for Auditchain. And so, Pedro, thank you for coming on today. That's all we got. That's all we got time for. And as always, the wisdom, the conspiracy theories, and the BTC advice is always well heard.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate you. And yeah, if you want to check me out, I will most likely, once crypto really starts to get pumping with real volume, I'll probably start to do on a daily basis again. If you will like and subscribe, and just throw even a couple comments. I always tell people, go watch my the merge video as I was yelling at Bankless because the market was going to drop. And check out some of my videos. I'm under Pedro Garcia Crypto Chart Analysis, and it's me, and have a few videos there. The markets.
If you want to hear a couple hours of Pedro at a time, go to his YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. You'll hear it. I'll have Pedro on sometimes in the long form like this, and sometimes for just a few minutes of it while I get to the guest of the day. But Pedro, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll probably see you tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see you then, buddy.
All right, bye. Later. Well, everyone, thanks for a good show today. I want to summarize it up. While we got to a lot of the market issues with Pedro and how the market recovered from the news of the bad news of we'll say crypto, not crypto, the SEC bringing the hammer down on Coinbase and Binance. I wanted to reinforce the idea that behind the scenes there's quite the war going on. For a number of reasons, behind the war going on in the U.S. government for control of this. This whole thing, and that is the SEC saying that, as I've got him here, saying that we're in charge of everything, we know how to do this best, and we're going to prosecute all these people. And it's not just my opinion, but it's a widely held opinion that they're doing it to get money to fund their budget, because they get to keep the money that they fine people. The CFTC, which actually is a day-to-day market regulator. That's what people don't understand. The SEC is not a day-to-day market regulator. They are an equities oversight group, really is the best way to they want to make sure you register correctly and you follow a transparent set of rules and do all that. And basically their whole process is 80% transparency in filing financial disclosures. And so that there is nothing that a registering company is hiding from in its investor base. Whereas the CFTC every day is a daily, on the ground regulator of markets. In fact, if the commodities markets start to tank too much, they put in limits and they say, "Hey, we've gone down too much." If it goes up too high, they're like, "Hey, we got to stop trading. Something's wrong. There's a market imbalance. We need to look into it." Those are called the stops. The stops are in, or limit down, limit up, whatever it is. And so behind the scenes, the CFTC is saying, as we saw in the House Agriculture Committee, it's saying, hey, we want to do this. We can do this. We should be the ones doing it. We should regulate the things that are not deemed to be a security, should be a commodity, and regulate it accordingly. There's some big holes in the thought process here, but they're getting there. And then also you have Congress. So you have the SEC on one side. What do they call it? A Mexican standoff? It's a three-way. You have the SEC, you have the CFTC, and you have Congress looming over the whole thing here, getting ready to press the nuke button on it. And the only kind of hiccup in the whole thing is the U.S. Senate, which is not as conducive to, I should say, not as liberal to crypto as the House Republican, the House, which is led by the Republican Party, is. So we're seeing this war brewing for control of who gets to regulate crypto. And I got to tell you, echoing what everybody is saying I've really never seen anything in a regulated issue like this, in which the overwhelming majority of the information out there is, this is wrong, you guys are idiots, and caustic, just caustic. And it's not because they're going after the big people that everyone loves. Well, I'm sure there's a little bit of that, but they're doing it because they're, what seems to be that they are vindictive. I still got the Pedro thing on. He's not on anymore. They've been vindictive and selfish in trying to do what they want. The charges from they put out a statement saying, what did the guy say? One of the ex-compliance officers for Binance said, "Dude, we're operating an illegal, unlicensed exchange." This was 2018. 2018, Binance didn't even have a corporate headquarters. They didn't operate anywhere. They didn't have any offices. They didn't have any legal thing anywhere. They're just doing it, and they're making fat bank. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they were totally illegal just because the U.S. government hadn't set up a way to regulate them. You know, the SEC claims, oh, Binance fits in our regulation mode. That has only sort of been proven a little bit with a one court case about regulating whether something's a security or a commodity. But it certainly wasn't the case in 2018. And so Binance has a great chance, and Coinbase too, of prevailing on some of these things simply because there were no rules in 2018. And no matter how much the SEC kicks and screams that, oh, they violated the rules back then, that they actually did. You know, that's going to be up for the courts to say. It's a matter of public opinion, millions of people. And then Coinbase, too. I learned something the other day about Coinbase that, in fact, it was yesterday on Twitter responding to someone. The vast size of Coinbase and how it impacts people in every state. In California alone, there are 644,000 people, we'll just say 650,000 people, staking on the Coinbase platform. Not just have an account, but they're actively staked. 644,000. That's an amazing number. That's 3% of the California population over the age of 18. 3%. 3%. And extrapolated to the U.S. in general, that's what is it? 10.4 million people are staked in Coinbase. That means they have 20 million accounts, 30 million accounts, and that's not worldwide. That's just the U.S. The vastness of the vast amount of people involved in this, who clearly by staking and by having an account still on Coinbase, basically agree that they're not being scammed by Coinbase. Gensler says, you know, they've illegally enriched themselves, so they have to give all their money back, which doesn't mean to us, it means to him. I lost my train of thought there, but the amount of people staked shows that the crypto world is over the edge. And if we can get all those people to call their representatives, say, hey, I agree with Coinbase and Binance. I don't agree with this guy. Let's just get some regular regulation going on here, that it just has some basic consumer protections in it. But I understand it's crypto. All these people know crypto is a risk. There's the one or two people that I deal with on my show, Rugged, Ruined, and Wrecked, that say, hey, I didn't know crypto was a risk, and I got rugged 3 times today. I dealt with one guy. I'm so sad. I got rugged 3 times today. He says, how can you lose your money in an investment? And everyone's like, it's crypto, dude, it's crypto. Of course, everyone knows you can get rug pulled in crypto because there are no consumer protections. If there are some basic ones that come out of that, that's fine. But what we have here is a worldwide thing. We have the ability, a 12-year-old, I forget where I read the article, but someone's kid launched their own ERC20 token. Took his allowance that he had saved up $500 and put that in his ELP. Or he ran a miner. He might have run a miner or something like that when ETH was mining, and started a token. And so when the government says, either the SEC or the CFTC or Congress says, hey, this only can be like the old school, everything goes through the existing financial system that's set up for wealthy people that understand it. But a 12-year-old can do it. Does that mean this system's going to stop it? I mean, you can transfer money around the world with this. He can literally start a contract, pair it with BNB or ETH or whatever, send the keys to someone else. They can sell the tokens and take the money. I mean, there's no stopping it. It's absolutely impossible to stop it. Even if you say, oh, and how do you prosecute a 12-year-old for doing it? Anyone? It's maddening, I say. It's maddening. It's maddening. It's maddening. It's maddening. But, we keep trying. We keep trying, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that's all I have for you today. We had a lot to talk about. As usual, I have Pedro on, and he takes it takes a lot more time than I thought. I didn't get to everything I wanted to talk about, but be sure we're going to talk about it. Let's see if I can get this right here. Be sure we're going to talk about it on the Brink today here in live from London. That comes up in about an hour and a half here. 2 hours. 2 hours. It comes up in an hour. So I got to get cracking on that. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. As I say, show never gets a very good live audience, but in the end, we get a lot of replays and social media clips out of it. So that's why we like doing this. Anyway, so everybody have a great day. We'll see you later at Live from London with Binance and Coinbase. Their time has come, so be there.